The Florida Gators do what very few thought was possible. They went and they beat the Texas Longhorns. Gator fans enjoyed a nice day in the swamp. Gators won the game, got to do the horns down, celebrated the win. It was all great. Still a lot of questions about this football team, though, once the euphoria of that win wore off. We'll talk about all that today and a lot more. First things first, I'm your host, Neil Shulman. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at All Kinds Weather. Adrian, Perez, the co-host of the All Kinds Weather forecast, also the guy who runs Gator Diamond Pod, which is now, as we talked about a couple times before, officially part of the All Kinds of Weather family. So be sure to give him a follow at Gator Diamond Pod for the Gator baseball / softball news as it comes your way. Also follow him on his personal at ADNDEL. All right, before we get the show on the road, got to take a minute to shout out our sponsor. The All Kinds of Weather forecast is proudly sponsored by 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants, and they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it's savings for your child's college, investment advice, or even just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. That's 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, contact them 866-998-5879 or visit their website at 401kgeneration.com. Okay, horns down. Gators won the game. They were not an enormous underdog, but they were an underdog nonetheless. Texas was a top 10 team, whatever you want to take that to mean.
Not no more.
Not no more. They're out of the top 25 altogether after falling 29-21 to the Florida Gators. We'll run through the game real quick. We'll let Adrian give his thoughts, and then we'll go from there. So first things first, I think I said this a couple shows ago, but I want to make this a real thing on the All Kinds of Weather forecast. We're going to talk positives first. We're going to talk about the good stuff that happens first, whether the Gators win or lose the game. I have a reputation for being negative, so we're going to try to shed that a little bit by talking about the good stuff first. So the positive takeaways. Florida finally was healthy. That's good. Florida finally pushed the ball down the field a couple times. That was good. Explosive plays of 60 yards to VB3 and then 55 more to Dallas Wilson. Athlete making a great play there. We'll talk about that more down the road in the show, but both times Lagway puts the ball up down the field. Superior athletes make plays. Also, Jaden Ball finally got the touches that a lot of Gator fans have been clamoring for. 27 touches for 107 yards. That's more carries than he got against Miami and LSU combined. I'm a fan of that for sure. Even had some success off the right side of the line, which we thought was going to be a weakness after the first couple games of the season and was confirmed to be a weakness after the LSU and Miami games, as those two teams just ate Florida in the trenches all night. The defense has been good for most of the year. I've cautioned against giving it too much praise because it's mostly just been bend, don't break, and hasn't given up a ton of points, but also didn't generate any real pressure on a quarterback or create many turnovers. Couple came their way. The Bryce Thornton scoop and score to start the season come to mind. Garrett Nussmeier just lofting up a pop fly for reasons I'll never understand in that situation comes to mind. And then one great play by Cormani McClain against Miami. That's been a major struggle for Florida too, though, because they have come very few and far between. So pretty good defense statistically, some major struggles in those areas. Both of those things changing in spades against the Texas Longhorns on Saturday. And then special teams. Taylor Spirito blocking a punt. Haven't seen that in a long time. And think about this. Florida wins the game by 8 points. Florida special teams generates 2 points off a blocked punt for safety and 3 more on one Trace Mack field goal and 3 more on a second Trace Mack field goal. 8 points come directly from Florida special teams on this day. Florida wins the game by 8 points. All right, Adrian, I just ran through the game. Those are some of the quick and dirty highlights of it. And so I'll ask it this way. If, and I say this with very thick, bold text around it, if we were to hypothesize that Florida football goes on a run now and wins a bunch of games in a row, what was it that you saw in this Texas game that would give you the confidence to think that that could actually happen and is not just a fairy tale?
Listen, you pretty much went through a whole bunch there, but when you ask that specific question, it's actually the number one thing that I had as far as the breakdown of this game. The lines of scrimmage. It's what the entire game boils down to, and what if Florida is to go on a run here, will have to continue, right? Especially on the offensive line, Neil. I mean, by far, the offensive line played their best game of the entire season. Was it Texas that they are just extremely overrated, or did something click in the off season? I mean, in the off week, right? Which you would have hoped it would have clicked in the off season, but we'll talk about that later. But what happened? What happened that in this game, the offensive line, like you said, even the right side of that offensive line, which, by the way, Caden Jones played at right tackle pretty much predominantly the entire game. They didn't do the flip-floppy rotation thing. Not even Robert Kearney got in there much at right guard. It was pretty much George at right guard, Caden Jones at right tackle, and they just went with it. So maybe that was something that they decided to change up during the off week, that they identified something. Something clicked, but it was a dominating performance on the lines of scrimmage. And if anything's going to continue on moving forward, especially next week, which we'll talk about later on this week when we preview A&M, but it's going to have to be continued dominance on the Florida offensive line, if for nothing else, to protect a hobbling, and I mean hobbling, DJ Lagway. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on too, Neil.
I mean, you can look at the box score or even just the final score. Florida 29, Texas 21. You can see it even as plain as day right here on the All Kinds of Weather Forecast YouTube channel if you're watching there. That doesn't tell you the story even of how the game went. And even if you looked at the box score, it wouldn't tell you how the game went. You would look at the 55-yard touchdown. Dallas Wilson probably just caught a screen pass and went unblocked down the field, right? Or he completed a 60-yard pass to Vernell Brown. All right, how many of that were air yards? How do we know that wasn't just like a 7-yard slant and two Texas guys run into each other and fall down? Well, DJ Lagway threw the football. Now, on the Dallas Wilson one, the guy fell down. Part of that was because Dallas Wilson made him fall down, but he fell down. And so it was basically an on-air route. And then at that point, he does this kind of pirouette, moonwalking sort of combination down the sideline to stay in bounds and avoid the tackle and get into the end zone. So part of that is just phenomenal athlete doing what phenomenal athletes do. He makes big-time plays in his debut. He deserves his flowers. That's all good. I'm more than happy to give him his praise. I'm more than happy to give Billy praise, frankly, because maybe I'm just in a good mood because Florida finally won a game for a change. But maybe I'll just give Billy Napier his praise. He went and got Dallas Wilson. Okay, bravo. Good. You great. You got us some great athletes. That's awesome. Where in the hell has that been, not only this September, but last September? We have now started 2 football seasons in atrocious fashion, really 3, if you want to count just the pure opener in Salt Lake City 2 years ago. That was embarrassing. And then you get blitzed by Kentucky a couple weeks after that. So really, Florida just doesn't start out seasons well under Billy Napier. They have the bye week. Things appear to have changed. Like you said, some of that may have just been Texas is not good. Some of it may be Florida did figure something out. But if it's the latter, and we're going to give this team praise, then we have to at least wonder, well, why has this continued to happen every single season that he's been here? I mean, the first year, his very first year, they lose to Kentucky in game 2 after they beat Utah. So you can really say it's been all 4 years that he's been here. That Florida has not gotten off to a good start. They've never started 2-0. They started this year 1-3. How do we know if we're going to give Billy Napier a 5th season here that we won't just lay a big fat egg next September too, and every September from then on, and which is going to continue to cost Florida down the road? I said last year that Florida losing those games to Miami and A&M in the fashion that they did probably cost them a CFP spot. If you win those 2 games, you go 9-3, and you add wins over Miami and Texas A&M to your resume against that schedule, 9-3 probably puts you in the playoff over Alabama that did not have that tough of a schedule, and over Miami, who also in that scenario would have been 9-3. You would have been over them as well with a head-to-head win and a better record. With an overall My bad. With a head-to-head win and the same record, they both would have been 9-3 in that case. So this is a problem, Adrian, and we can talk about Florida improving and figuring things out now and being better the rest of the season. But before we just completely forget about it, how much of the September struggles were on DJ Lagway and his health? Because we know he was not fully healthy. That is a fair statement, and I will totally agree with that. But how much of the September struggles for Florida are on him, and how much of them have just been, well, this is what Billy Napier's teams do. They just don't play well the first month of the year.
Well, we've talked about that though, right? That, yeah, DJ hasn't been healthy. And, Neil, I see DJ, man, as a ticking time bomb. There's something bad with his right leg. It's probably his calf. And honestly, man, I just hate to say it because you don't want to put it out there in the universe, but his Achilles could go at any time. I thought he popped his Achilles on that play. It was on the second drive. We had the ball on the Texas A&M 18-yard line. It was 1st and 10. He does a naked bootleg to the right. He tries to hit Livingston, and he does like a little jump pass thing. I guess he felt it already tightening, and he tried to get off his feet. That's why he does the little jump pass. There was no need for it. He could have planted his feet and ripped it, but he felt something. Does a little jump pass, looked awful. If you watch the TV replay, Sturdivant sees it, who's like at around the 1-yard line. He sees it and immediately puts his hands on his head immediately like this. So something's going on. They keep it like, cloak and dagger stuff down there, and I get it. But enjoy watching DJ this season for as much as you can, man, because something's bad with him, and it could pop at any time. But regardless, Billy and his staff, look, they made a concerted effort this game to run the ball, okay? Jaden Bogg had more carries this game than he did combined against LSU and Miami. Now, I get it. Jacoby Jackson wasn't in the game, but the other backup looked pretty good. What's his name, Neil? The freshman. Duke. Yeah, he looked pretty good, man. He also got a little bit hurt, too, so hopefully he's fine. But still, they made the effort to run the ball no matter what with Bogg and establish that run, okay? Something that they abandoned against LSU and Miami, both of which games were tight. So there was no need to do that. So that's number one. Number two, Neil, they finally made the wide receivers the main focal point of the passing game. What a concept, okay? It used to be the tight ends, okay? Now I get it.
Like those Hayden Hansen 2-yard dump-offs?
Now, I get it if your two tight ends are named like Kyle Pitts and Aaron Gates or something like that, or Brock Bauer, okay? Right. If those are the two tight ends that you're throwing out there, I get it, man. Make them the focal point by all means. But
or
that's
Jordan
not
Reed
what we have.
But
and yet, that's been the deal. So they finally made the concerted effort to make the wide receivers the focal point of the passing game. Is that because Dallas Wilson came back? I don't know. But, geez, these are all things that you cannot wait until you're already down 2 or 3 games in a year and you get your bye week to make these, all of a sudden, these revelations. All right? You're getting paid too much for that, man. You can't punt on the first month of the season like we talked about last week. You can't keep doing that. So, I mean, we're like jumping here, like going ahead in our topics. But if you're telling me about Billy Napier's future, two things can be synonymous, Neil. You could be happy about the win, man. I'm happy. I had a great time Saturday watching him win that game. I'm happy. But it could also be true that I think Billy Napier's time here has run its course, because that's 4 years where you see these massive coaching flaws in his coaching character that just aren't going to get any better. And it reminds me to like this old thing, and I'll kick it back to you now. Like, and this is not political, but George W. Bush, if you want, Google it. During the Iraq War, he made a comment, fool me once, shame on you. And then he wanted to say, fool me twice, shame on me. But he got it all mixed up. And he said, you just can't get fooled again. Google it. It's real funny, man. So I'm like George W. Bush here, man. You just can't get fooled again, Billy. I just can't get fooled again by you, man. I just can't. I've been fooled more than once, more than twice. I've been fooled about 3 or 4 times already. It just can't keep happening, Neil.
Bonus
It's just
points for the reference of a political figure without talking politics. That's very rare. But I mean, yeah. Look, we're here. Screw it. We'll just talk about it because this is where we are in the podcast. We're gonna talk about Billy Napier. We'll give the defense their flowers in a bit. They're gonna deserve it, and we're gonna give it to them in spades. But Billy Napier, all right. The guy that we're talking about is 21-22 at Florida. With this big win, this huge win that some of his sunshine pumping burner bots on Twitter are now saying, well, he's back. Here he is. He's here to stay now. It just took him a little longer than it should have, but he's back, and the Gators are here to stay. Okay, cool. 21-22 all-time at Florida. He's 11-15 all-time at Florida against the SEC. So, okay, if you want to go out there and say Billy Napier is going to win out this year, do you then still want him fired if Florida does not lose another game this year? So I'll put it this way. I've seen a lot of chatter about that. It does not come from nowhere. There are plenty of people who are actually making that conversation point. I'm not sure how many of them actually believe it, but they are making the conversation point because that's what social media is now. You just say stupid things and, get rewarded for it with the algorithm. So, all right, I'll take it seriously. Because my initial knee-jerk response to that is, dude, Texas sucks. Like, they have a lot of problems. That offensive line of theirs was food against the Florida defensive line that couldn't really generate much pressure against South Florida. But, okay, fine. I'll take it seriously. What if Florida wins out and wins the SEC title? So, sure, I'll answer the question right off the bat. Yes, he can stay. No, I will not still want him fired if he wins out and does not lose another game the rest of the season. I will say that on the air right now. Florida wins out, I'm fine with Billy Napier coming back. But before you cash that bet, you should know one thing. The longest SEC winning streak that Billy Napier has ever had at Florida, Adrian, do you know this stat?
No.
I tweeted it. It's 2 games. That is the longest SEC win streak. That is the most SEC games he has ever won in a row at Florida. He has never won 3 SEC games in a row before at the University of Florida. Never. Not one time in 3.5 seasons. So now you're telling me he's going to magically win 8 in a row? Because you're going to say he wins out, wins the SEC. So that means he'll win the SEC title. So that's 8. He'll win 8 games in a row against SEC opponents. So you're telling me he's going to not only beat his high score of 2 SEC wins in a row, he's going to now quadruple it, which, by the way, would include definitionally the best team in the SEC in Atlanta. And this also means a guy who is 3-12 combined against Florida's rivals is going to beat the 3 biggest rivals, Georgia, Tennessee, and FSU, all in a row. So he's going to match his lifelong win total against Florida's traditional rivals in half of one season. No, I'm not buying it. Sorry. But for the sake of answering the question, sure, he wants to go ahead and win every game remaining on the schedule and then go to Atlanta and win that one too, and then go to the CFP and win out from there. Even if he doesn't win out in the CFP, even if you lose in the first round of the CFP, I'll even be that nice. You want to win every game remaining on your schedule and then go win the SEC title game? Sure. He can stay. But keep those little bullet points I just gave you in mind because the past is a predictor of the future, and that past tells me it's not going to happen. So, and that's what it's going to take for me, by the way, for him to stay. 8-4, no bueno, Adrian, the Spanglish guy here. No bueno. That's not going to do it. Muy mal. That's just not going to cut it because we said before this started, we need 9-3. This team was prognosticated to be a playoff team. That's what's going to take.
The key phrase you said there is, though, that's what it's going to take for me. Let me tell you what it's going to take for Scott Strickland, all right? I already heard the narrative on sports radio here in Gainesville today already. Like I said last week, Neil, remember I said it. The narrative's going to start to be that word's going to get out that DJ was a little bit more hurt than what was initially said and that the schedule was really tough on Billy. And that schedule narrative has already started getting spun on local sports radio by the
Was USF part of that schedule narrative or no?
Oh, of course. That's conveniently kind of overlooked. They just look at the rest of the schedule coming up, obviously. But I'm gonna tell you, Neil, I'm gonna be flat out honest with you. I think Billy, 6 wins, he's coming back. I mean, 6 wins, he makes a bowl, he's coming back slam dunk. And be careful if at 5-7, if DJ goes out before the end of the season with an injury at 5-7, he's probably coming back too, man. I'm telling you, Neil, this coaching change does not want to be made. All right, it does not want to be made, and the best advice I could give the people is just vibe, enjoy the season, enjoy some of these games, and hopefully there's some more wins. But if you really get caught up on, wanting a coaching change, and don't root against your Gators, Last week I kind of came off almost like rooting against Florida, and I didn't want that to come off that way. You never want to root against your team. I was saying that Strickland, unfortunately, was putting some fans almost in that predicament because of this, right? But you don't want to do that. You want to enjoy the season. They're few and far between. They go by really fast. And, you never know, man. Maybe Billy could pull something out of the hat. I don't know. Fool me again.
Well, like he did last year. But the problem is last year, no one was really talking about Florida as a CFP team. Florida fans in isolation may have been floating that because they won every season to end in the CFP. But Florida, by and large, was projected to be 7-5, 8-4. Well, it's not how you draw it up, getting embarrassed in the first 2 home games against FCS teams, but they got there. They got to 7-5. So most of us said, okay, fine, he can come back and stay. That's not the case this year. You got your entire offensive line back. DJ may have been hurt, fine, whatever, but you got him back. And your defense was supposed to be your crown jewel of your team, which you said before the season on the State of the Program pod. You said, I think the defense is going to get more respect and be higher ranked than the offense will. We were not – I'm going to guess you were not saying that because you thought the offense would be terrible. I think you said that because you thought the defense would just be that good. So
mainly
the thinking around Florida football this year was, all right, they've got the pieces. They've got everything. They got the quarterback. They got the offensive line. They got the defense. And we think, fingers crossed on this, but we think they've got enough veteran experience throughout the team that they can maybe play their B+ or B or B-, even their C+ game once or twice and get away with it, because they'll know how to dig deep in these close games and figure out ways to win them. Well, so far they haven't done that, because the South Florida game comes to mind, LSU game comes to mind, Miami comes to mind. That was a 13-7 game with 15 minutes left in the ball game. So that's not the case so far. You win one game now in which you're up by 15 points in the fourth quarter, and you let it get to a situation where they've got the ball with a chance to send it to overtime. It's a long shot. They're backed up deep in their own territory, but they're down 8 with the football. They had a chance to get back into it. They throw you a pick. They throw you the second interception to Devin Moore, and Florida's up 15 with 7.5 minutes to go with the football in good field position on their own 40. You get 20 yards, 25 yards at most. You're in Trace Mack's field goal range. Kicks the field goal, now it's a 3-score game. What happens? Well, you don't move the ball, you punt it back, Texas scores, you don't move the ball again. Some weirdness happens that I do have to clarify was not Billy Napier's fault. That timeout was taken because Austin Barber's helmet came off, and the timeout was called to prevent him from having to sit out a play. When such a thing happens on the field, the clock will stop anyway, whether the other team accepts or declines a 10-second runoff. So the only reason for the timeout was to keep Barber in the game. Florida could not have potentially, under any circumstance, been losing and need that timeout to mount a game-winning drive in the final minute because, again, they're up 8. So Texas can only score 8 points, possibly. So I'm not sure that all this crossed Billy Napier's mind, all this math, but he made the correct call, and we have to give him that. So that weirdness happens. But then after that, Texas gets the ball. Their backup quarterback comes in, Matthew Caldwell. He rips a seed for 30 yards. We're thinking, oh no, here we go again. Defense is going to choke now, aren't they? They're going to give this up. We're going to go to overtime. But no, defense comes up big with one more sack. George Gums, Cameron James come up with a couple of sacks on that last drive, finish it off for Florida. We do get the win, but even in that win, there's enough hesitation from us. We think, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this development. This is getting too close for comfort here. And now to bring this full circle, to just talk about Napier's whole tenure, this is the third time that Florida has had a big game that everyone knows is the big game that he needs to win in the Swamp, where Florida has dominated the first half. And then the second half, they kind of curl up into a shell and let the other team just get back into it. So Tennessee in 23, you're up 26-7. You win that game 29-16. Never really in doubt, but also never really comfortable until the final minute or two of that game. Central Florida of 24, you're up 23 at halftime. You're 24-3 at halftime. You're shut out in the second half. You don't score a single point, and you win that game 24-13. And now this one, where you're up 19-7 at the half. You get the ball in good field position after that Taylor Spirito blocked punt, and you get the free kickoff return in a good field position. You don't do anything with that in the final minutes of the half, and then you win the game 29-21. So
let me get
pattern here.
Let me get with you on that final minutes of the half thing, okay? Because you brought it up twice now, and I wanted to touch base on that.
I was waiting for you to do it. I was waiting for you to do this.
Right? Billy is being let off the hook here. The end of the game, you nailed it, all right? The television announcer, who I love that guy. The guy who was – no, the analyst.
Louis
Riddick. I love him, man. Super sharp, but he had this one wrong. He was pretty much dumping on Billy hard. So Billy got that right. You explained it perfectly. The end of the half. Let's start with the blocked punt. We get the 2 points on the blocked punt. They kick the ball off to us. You actually tweeted about it on X. When we get the ball back, pretty good field position. I think we're on the 40. He runs 3 off-tackle plays to the left side. Colin Simmons just swallows them all up.
Yep.
All right? And we have to punt the ball. Now, we punt the ball, get them pinned down pretty good. Billy botches it. Okay? There was a penalty on a Texas lineman. And Billy, I would imagine at that point, he had the option to decline the 10-second runoff also. He decided not to decline the 10-second runoff. That was mistake number one that he made, okay? The next play, we get a sack, okay? Then what happens is Billy doesn't call timeout immediately. He waits 13 seconds to call timeout on third down, okay? He waits 13 seconds. Now the clock went under 40. So Texas A&M runs a third down play, okay, and the clock runs out. They don't have to kick the ball on fourth down. Mind you, they would have been kicking it from the back of the end zone when the last time that they kicked it, we blocked it. So because Billy A decided not to decline the 10-second runoff, number one, that was 10 seconds. Then he's about 13 seconds late on calling a timeout. That's 23 seconds that he gave Texas A&M off the clock where they didn't have to do a fourth down play. The fourth down being a punt from the back of the end zone. The clock expired. We went into halftime. It's something that was completely overlooked because, A, Florida ended up winning the game, okay? And then the end of game clock situation kind of took over more so the narrative. But Billy messed that one up, man.
Billy is just bad at the middle eight, period.
He's awful in the middle eight.
Let's just back up. Like it was what you just explained this time. This time, that was the analysis and synopsis of it. It's always something stupid. Whether he uses timeouts he's not supposed to use, or he doesn't use timeouts that he is supposed to use, or he calls running plays on 3 straight plays, which he actually did do this time anyway, and they're all blown up by the same guy who, by the way, is probably going to be a high NFL draft pick in Colin Simmons. So good idea. Let's test him 3 times in a row. It's always something When there is an opportunity to foul something up in the middle 8, he will do it. And I use that in general. Like whenever Billy Napier finds an opportunity to foul something up, he usually does it. See the Tennessee game last year. See the Arkansas game 2 years ago. It's just a general statement about Billy Napier. It's particularly accurate in the middle 8, which is the end of the first half, the last 4 minutes of the first half, and then the first 4 minutes of the second half. That's where it gets in the middle 8. He's just phenomenally bad at it. Whatever form it's going to take in a given week, I don't know. I won't claim to be psychic and tell you exactly what's going to happen against Texas A&M. By the way, Adrian, we played Texas this week, not A&M. But I don't know what form it's going to take against A&M next week, but I'm sure as Sunrise, he'll do something stupid to mess that up. That said, he does get his credit for being correct, or at least for not being damagingly stupid in the end of the game for calling the timeout. The only thing the timeout was designed to do was give Austin Barber the chance to play that last play or that next play. It had nothing to do with the clock situation. The clock would have stopped and started exactly the same whether he called timeout or not, because the timeout was already taken due to the stoppage of play. So that's that. Let's get positive again and talk about the defense, because DJ Lagway looked better. Dallas Wilson, phenomenal play. Vernell Brown, phenomenal play. 60-yard catch, goes up and gets it, pulls it down, and gets more yards after the catch. That's all great. Special teams gets its flowers too. The blocked punt, 2 field goals by Trace Mack, all great. Florida does not win this game without its defense. They lose this game without its defense. And they weren't even perfect. Cormani McClain does get beat on a long touchdown. He's had a phenomenal year, so I don't think anyone's really in the mood to pick on him, especially after the story that he has had, the journey he's had to get to this point. We're all happy with Cormani McClain. He got beat on that touchdown. There were 2 more plays, one a trick play and one Arch Manning just had his guy wide open and missed him. There are 2 plays where Texas had touchdowns against a beaten Florida secondary, and they missed. They just missed the throws. Having said that, by and large, this defense did phenomenal. 6 sacks, 2 turnovers. We got to talk about them some more. Adrian, I'll let you do that.
I have here mixed reviews on that, man. And I got to be honest. I call it like I see it. I've given this defense their flowers throughout the entire season, even preseason. But we struggled covering in this game, man. We struggled covering, minus Devin Moore. Devin Moore's playing like an NFL player right now. He should be a second-round pick, man. I don't think he gets past the second round if he stays healthy and balls out at the combine. But, look, the front 7 was unbelievable, especially when you consider some of the guys that were out still, right? With Banks out, and Bachu all of a sudden popped up on the injury list late in the week. I got some more flowers later on when we talk about our other stuff for this defense. But Cormani had a tough night. We got lucky. First of all, we got lucky that Arch is not the man. He is not the man, man. Arch, first of all, he didn't have time. I give that on our D-line and on Ron Roberts scheming up some very good blitzes. But Arch missed a lot of throws also, number one. And then there was a lot of times when he had throws and he wouldn't pull the trigger also. Now, mind you, he was probably seeing a little bit of ghosts because of all the pressure all around him and because of his offensive line that's pretty weak. They lost a lot of talent to the NFL. But he's not the man, dude. As a matter of fact, if his name wasn't Arch Manning, I think that backup would be getting some serious play right now, okay? Because like you said, he came in ice cold and threw a dart for 30 yards. Cormani, like you said, man, had a rough night in coverage. Kind of got lucky he didn't get a couple unsportsmanlike conduct calls either. They need to get with him. I think he was getting a little frustrated. He would come in late after a play that he wasn't even involved in and get in the Texas guy's face a couple times. He came close to getting a 15-yarder a couple times. So they got to talk to him about that. That's something that hasn't been a part of his game this entire season. You don't want it to start creeping in now, man. He's worked too hard, and he has too much of an opportunity right now for that to happen. But when you talk about, I'm going to say 2 guys here, man, Miles Graham and Brian Taylor Jr. Those guys played out of their minds, dude. Miles Graham, I don't know how much more we could say about him. I mean, I talk about him every week on this pod, but the guy's just guy's just a great linebacker, man. He has unbelievable instincts. The way he goes straight to the ball, he must do film work up the wazoo. And, and then Brian Taylor Jr. coming in because of injuries, right? He probably wouldn't be playing much, but for maybe, 5 snaps a game maybe? If Banks is there, if Mbachu's there. But he played a big portion of that game and had a whale of a game, man. Was putting pressure up the middle on Arch the entire ball game. Him and Micah Boru. So both of those guys did outstanding. But it concerns me a little bit, the back end of that defense. Now, this guy who they were going up against, I'm not talking about Arch. I'm talking about the coach. Okay, Texas's coach. All right? He's one hell of a play caller, and he's one hell of a schemer. So he was able to scheme up some guys open, even with Florida just getting pressure with a 4-man rush. That's the crazy thing, Neil. Florida was pretty much dropping 6 to 7 throughout the whole day. All right, mind you, some creeper type of blitzes here and there, but even then, they were still just bringing in predominantly 4. They were dropping back guys. So guys were still getting open, even with 6 to 7 in coverage pretty much the entire day. So that just goes to show you how he's a heck of an offensive coordinator, heck of an offensive play caller, Mrs. Scarsizian, whatever. But they got to work on that a little bit. I'm a little concerned. They didn't do any rotating on the corners either. It was Devin and it was Cormani the entire game. So that's also telling me, too, that, the backup's there now since we lost Dijon Johnson, which I saw him on campus today. He's recuperating from his surgery and stuff. He's all in crutches and stuff. Losing him is a blow because you had 3 good guys there. I don't know how much confidence they have in the rest of that cornerback room, Neil. So we'll see moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much confidence you have in the secondary period. Obviously, there's different roles there. Corners and safeties do different things, obviously. But I don't think there's depth anywhere there. Anywhere in the secondary. Like, you can't rotate anyone into any spot now. Like, if Devin Moore goes down for God forbid what reason, but I get very, very nervous. I'm not even going to put any of the bad stuff on Cormani. I think he had a bad game. It happens. Whatever. Move on. Play better against A&M. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the whole of the depth that Florida has there, or the lack of it, I should say. That's whole WHOLE. The entirety of it is not great. But I think it's weird, too, in that I think this is the worst game of the year the defense has played for Florida because the other 4 have been better. They played – I mean, I don't fault them for the last touchdown against Miami. That was garbage time. They more than did their job in that game. LSU, you give up, I think you said 10 points. I said 13. I gave them the second field goal drive. Whatever. You hold them to less than 14 points. And South Florida, you did a great job. You have the one bust where they hit the long touchdown throw, and then the last drive of the game, they go down the field on you and score. But also 15 yards of that was having one of your players spit in an opponent's face like a moron, which isn't on the entirety of your defense. That's one guy doing something stupid. But again, they did their jobs for the overwhelming majority of that game. This game, there was a lot to nitpick. And maybe some of that is that Texas is better offensively than the other 3 schools, but I don't think that's really the case. I don't really think that Arch Manning is better than Carson Beck or Garrett Nussmeier, both of whom are far from perfect. But I just don't think Manning is that great, frankly, the way that you put it. He's not the man. The fact that he has the last name of Manning probably has a lot to do with why he got rated 5 stars and why he's starting at Texas. Also unrelated, why he got a lot of money to play at Texas. So I don't think Arch Manning is that great. I think, like you said, they have a great schemer and play caller in Steve Sarkisian. Also, the entire offensive staff around him, because unlike Billy Napier, this guy actually knows how to surround himself with smart people, even on his side of the ball. Be that as it may, I think this defense is going to be fine moving forward, but I do wonder what happens if injuries start to creep up throughout the course of the season, because they already have with losing Caleb Banks and Aaron Gates and Mbachu. So it's happening.
And Dijon.
And Dijon Johnson, right. So a couple more, and I start to wonder, all right, do we start to see these cracks pop up? And as much as we hate to speak this into reality, injuries happen. They suck, but that's just part of the game. And you got to have a roster that's capable of not necessarily replacing all American types of talent. Not that Florida had any All Americans, but you know what I mean. Let's say Caleb Banks was an All American last year and he returned. Your roster has to be capable of not just stepping in and replacing that seamlessly, but at least holding his own, at least minimizing the drop off from the All American to whatever depths you want to pretend it's going to be. So that's recruiting, that's NIL, that's the portal, that's all that offseason stuff we talk about. Your roster is made in those months. Now you got to go and just play with what you got. My hope is that you have more guys like a Brian Taylor, like you talked about, coming in and minimizing the impacts of those losses. So we'll see what happens. They'll be tested against A&M next week. Not that they have a fantastic offense, but it's at least an SEC one. So, and it's on the road. So we'll see what happens there.
The only guy that I saw in the secondary who came in and played somewhat, I think he played a little bit of nickel, was Lagonzo Hayward, number 2. Yeah. So be looking maybe as the season keeps going on and a true freshman like Lagonzo Hayward gets a little bit more experience, he might get a little bit more a run in there. You really got to get somebody a little bit of run, even force feed them, just in case you get an injury to Sharif, just in case he tweaks his ankle like in the first quarter and needs halftime to come back to the third. You got to have somebody to be able to come in there and at least keep you afloat, man. So look for like a Lagonzo Hayward. He's the one that I saw come in there at least a little bit. I haven't seen the snap counts, but I saw him in there some.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's going to be guys that you don't even expect or know. Like it's going to be those types of guys that were third or fourth even on the depth chart when you first saw it come in. Not that Florida really releases that anymore, but the guys that you projected to be third or fourth in the depth chart in the off season, those are the guys that are going to have to step up and do what I just said of minimizing the impact of the blow of losing a top guy like a Caleb like a Caleb Banks or a Dijon Johnson. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Florida leaving a lot to be desired, even in the win, but it was a win. It's the first time they've gotten a win against an FBS opponent this year. So we're going to take it for what it is and enjoy it for as little time as we have now before we have to play Texas A&M. Let's wrap up this show, Adrian, with our final words. So the play of the game to you was what?
The play of the game, I always like to get a little bit cute on these here, but I'm not going to get cute, man. It's the Dallas Wilson touchdown, the one down the sideline. That's an NFL play. That's an NFL Randy Moss type of play. Just the physicality, the body control, the hands. He showed hands throughout the day. Then to remain balanced, the pirouette, stay in bounds, and then use power, literally like Jaden Bogg there at the 5-yard line, take on the safety, run him over, and get in the end zone and never even hit the ground. The safety never even got him down. All right. That guy's a man, dude. He is a man.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be the play of the game. Just to bring a second play to light, because there are two of us. So I'll bring up another play. I'll say that the George Gums sack at the end to just finish the game off, because that was what snuffed the last bit of air out of Texas's lungs in the game. The clock then ran out. Cameron James also with the sack before that to put them in a bad situation. So he also gets his flowers for a critical late game play. But the last sack to end the ball game for me is what I'll go with publicly. But yeah, I mean, Dallas Wilson, sensational athlete, doing what sensational athletes do.
That's Let me tell you, VB3, I want to give him an honorable mention too. The play he made, standing. How he remained standing on that catch and then went for another 15 yards. The body control that takes is amazing. You know who these guys are, but I went to school with them. I was in class with them. This reminds me so much of Riedel and Ike, these two guys, man. The the best two freshman wideouts that we've had at the same time like that since Riedel and Ike. I don't think nobody even comes close. These two guys are special, man. Two special players, man. Fun to watch.
Yeah, they're special, all right. And again, we hear all kinds of other forecasts, and before you, Adrian, it was Chris. We heaped a lot of criticism on Billy Napier, and he deserves it, all of it. But I will give him his credit for going out and getting those guys. They were battles on the recruiting trail. They were they were seriously considering other schools. Vernell Brown III was looking at Ohio State very seriously. And Miami. Too. Yeah. Yep, both of those schools. And Dallas Wilson was an Oregon Duck for 5 minutes before we made him change his mind on that. But those were battles, and Florida won them. So as much criticism as I give Billy Napier and Florida's NIL game, I will stand up and I will applaud them all on the efforts to get those two to campus. So good job, Billy. Good job, Florida's NIL. All you guys deserve your praise on that one, including Florida Victorious, the NIL collective. All right. The player of the game. There are a couple ones I can go with. Whichever one you don't go with, I will. So go ahead.
Well, I'm going to go two. So hopefully you don't have these two because I'm not going to differentiate. All right? Of course you will. I got Brian Taylor Jr., 3 total sacks, 2 solos, 3 total tackles, 2 solos, 1.5 sacks, 1.5 tackles for losses. The pressure he was putting up the middle on Arch all game was unbelievable. He was doing swim moves. The guy looked like an NFL defensive tackle there, dude. All right. And like I said, coming into the season, he was probably like 4th, 5th string. And then also his partner right beside him, Micah Boyroe. Micah Boyroe had 2 tackles, 1 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. He was a behemoth in the middle of that line also. Both of those guys, when the season started, were probably 3rd, 4th string, easy, okay? And to me, they were the MVPs of this ball game. The pressure they put up the middle, they controlled the run. We haven't even talked about that. Texas couldn't even run. Weisner had 11 total yards all game, dude. All right, they controlled the run. Let that dude behind them, number 5, who plays like a maniac, Miles Graham, werewolf on wheels, I call him. Let him just run amok. Why do you think he is able to run up and down that field from sideline to sideline, making all those plays? Because those dudes up front are just sucking up everybody, man. Awesome, good to see. I got those 2 guys. One of those yours? No, right?
No, but you mentioned one of my guys, Miles Graham. The reason that he's able to run sideline to sideline making those plays, yes, is because the defensive line did its job. Also because he has spectacular range and is able to make open field tackles. He made 5 of them, 2 of them solo. He put so much good stuff on his NFL draft tape in this game. Even when he's not making plays, like he's not getting the statistics, he's just everywhere. That number 5 in the blue jersey, freaking everywhere on that field. He's just always near the football. And then I have to go with the low-hanging fruit of Dallas Wilson because he set records for a Florida debut with 6 catches for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. Florida does not win the game without him. The same way I said Florida does not win this game without his defense or its special teams, for that matter. Florida does not win this game without him. And frankly, that's actually kind of part of the reason why I don't like Billy Napier as a coach so much is because he coaches with such a razor-thin margin for error that you had to have all of those things go and do spectacular jobs to win the game for you. And them just doing okay jobs or them just doing B plus or B minus level jobs isn't enough because of the way you coach, which, like I said, Florida's up 15 points with 7.5 minutes to go with the football at their own 40. They win the game by 8 points. That's again, living too close to the margins, not having a killer instinct, putting your foot on the throat and just not going for the kill shot. That's the way Billy Napier is. We just have to accept it at this point. But I should point out that those 3 things all had to be spectacular for Florida to win the game. They don't win the game without any of those three things. The Dallas Wilson explosion, the defense being sensational, getting 6 sacks and 2 picks, and the special teams with the blocked punt for 2, the field goal for 1 or for 3 more, and the second field goal for 3 more, 8 total points. So again, Billy Napier amassed this roster. He deserves some credit for it. It is worth noting that sometimes you'd like it to not have to come down to this scary of an ending. So that's the play or the players of the game. The play of the game to you was what?
The play of the game we already went over.
Sorry. We did do that. I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked that Florida actually won a game that my mind is kind of spinning right now.
Let's flustered, Neil.
Let's do the grades. I actually have. Let's do the grades.
I'm curious to see your grades here because you're usually a real tough grader. I'm going to go first, but I'm really, really curious to see yours because it's not too often this season we've done this after a Gator win. This is only going to be the second time. So, but let's kick it off, man. Offense, I got a B, a solid B, 457 total yards, 29 points. But you did have 2 turnovers, and you were scoreless in the fourth quarter when you could have put the game away more than once, which is the Billy Napier experience. We've talked about it. Go all the way back to his Louisiana days. He was the king of one-score ball games, even though he had vastly superior talent than anybody else in Conference USA or whatever that was.
Sunbelt. So how could you forget that? Sunbelt Billy says. Oh,
Sunbelt Billy. My bad.
This is our general manager of the football operations. Sunbelt Billy and his guys.
He deleted it. It
only took him 24 hours.
Trolling your own fan base, never a good thing. But anyways, so offense, solid B. Would have been better if they had put him away. Defense, I got a B. We talked about it, front 7, Miles Graham, so good, all that good stuff. The back end covered poorly. We talked about that, but still a solid B. You gave up 21 points to a solid top 10 SEC ball club. Man, you give up only 21 points. That's pretty good. So I give them a solid B. Special teams, I went with a B plus. The block punt by Taylor DeSpirito had a lot to do with that. The stats on if you block a punt or get a pick 6, the percentages of your team winning are like something almost 80% of the time that you get one of those things, you're gonna win. So
no. The Urban Meyer quote is if you block a punt or a kick, you win 92% of the time.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. There you go. So
that's not even taking the pick 6 into account. There's just one thing: blocking a kick or a punt, you win better than 92% of the time.
So that's huge, man. Only reason why it's not an A is because Dolman shanked a couple balls, man. I think Dolman had his worst game in a Gator uniform. He shanked a couple, so that's the only thing that kept it from an A, because Dolman's been solid the whole season otherwise. Coaching, I mean, I got to give it a B. Defense, because coaching encompasses defense, special teams. Do we have a special teams coach finally? Is he official? Is he on the books?
Not really.
Not really, right? He's like a consultant. But anyways, Houston, right? They keep showing him saying he's an NFL guy. So, okay, cool, man. He schemed up a block punt. Gotta be a B. Billy keeps it from an A. Sorry. And then overall, it's gotta be, I gave it a solid B plus overall. Hey, it's a top 10 win. Any way you slice it, it's a top 10 win.
Except it isn't because they completely won the top 25.
At the time, it's a top 10 win, and the Swamp feels good. The Swamp was rocking. Another sellout. Can't say enough about the fans for the University of Florida, man. You just can't say enough. It's the best fans in the world. Give me your grades, Neil.
Here we go.
Oh, boy.
Offense is going to get a B minus. I just hate the way that Billy manages the middle 8, but I guess that's on coaching more than it is the offense. But it's a B minus because, again, you have them on the ropes. And honestly, no, you know what? I'll change it because this is more on coaching. This is not on Lagway. It's not on the offensive players. It's on coaching. I'll give the offense a B plus because they do put up 440 yards of offense on Texas, which has a very good defense statistically. Now, 115 yards came on 2 plays, but they happened. Florida got those 115 yards because the offensive players made plays. I am more inclined to think of those as the anomaly because they also did not happen at any point throughout the course of the season before this game, except against Long Island, which doesn't really count because that's Long Island. But all right, fine. The stats are the stats. They weren't some fluke plays like a Hail Mary ball that was caught in traffic or a ball that was tipped 40 times and then caught, or some badly missed officiating call or some non-call, whatever that happened that granted Florida those free yards. Like they missed a blatant OPI where the guy just shoves the defender to the ground. No, that wasn't the case. They earned every yard there. Credit to the offense. They get a B+. Not an A+ because you scored 29 points. You could have scored 40. But fine. Defense. I think this is their worst game of the season by a good margin because I don't put any stock into Long Island. That doesn't matter. So South Florida, LSU, Miami, and then this game. Miami, I don't count the last touchdown against them. That's on the offense for being terrible throughout the game. LSU, they do a really good job. And then USF, they do, for the most part, a really good job too, like I said, except for the last drive and the one busted touchdown play. So this, almost by default, was their worst game of the season. That said, they still generated 6 sacks and picked off 2 passes. I think one of them was a gift. One of them that Arch Manning badly overthrew right to Jordan Castell was just an early Christmas present. But all right, fine. He caught it. He didn't drop it. He could have dropped it. He didn't. And then Devin Moore makes a great play. As you mentioned, he's playing NFL-type football. So I'll give them a solid B- as well because they do give up a lot of yards. I would have liked to see them really slam the door shut on that last drive. Instead, the backup Matthew Caldwell comes in and just fires a laser for 30 yards. That's not great when you've already backed them up in their own territory. They needed, I think, 25 yards for the first down. They got 29. So that's maybe nitpicking too close to one or two plays, but also there were a couple other coverage busts, as we talked about. Cormani McLean, not his best game. We're more than happy to put it behind us, but we're talking about this game as it exists. The things that he did happened. The things he did on tape happened. We got to talk about them. Special teams. I'm actually going to give them a higher grade than you. I'm going to say A-. And Doman did have a couple of shanked punts, but he averaged 39 yards per punt. So that's not fantastic, but that's also not terrible either. So that I'll hold as a neutral. And then Trace Mack, obviously a massive net positive. He struggles against Long Island in the opener. We think, oh no, are we going to have another kicking controversy? Not really. He's buckled up and he has made his kicks. We got to give him his credit here. He has been very reliable since that opening game. Then obviously the blocked punt. Taylor Spirito was pretty much unblocked. Let's just call it for what it is. There was not a whole lot of resistance for him coming in. He just split a couple of guys when there were 3 Gators rushing in. There were 2 Texas blockers to try to stave them off. He was the free man that came through. He also made the play. We will give him his credit. The scheme was great on that. Joe Houston doing a good job there. Obviously, the result is what we want, a blocked punt. So, fine. They're going to get their credit for that. Coaching. It's not great, man. I'll give it a C. Again, the middle 8 management was awful. It always is, but this was especially galling to watch. The timeout mismanagement, you covered that. That was bad. Again, there's just no sense of urgency. There's no understanding of, we just committed a turnover. Man, maybe this is because they haven't forced too many, but we just made a turnover happen. Let's go for the kill. Let's knock them out here. Take a play action shot down the field. Just sometimes do it. Obviously, you can't do the same thing like a robot after any one X thing happens. Like, you can't throw a deep shot every time on the first play after a turnover. How about sometimes? Just like ever? No, there's just no sense of urgency for Billy Napier and the Florida coaching staff. Again, you're up 15 with 7.5 minutes to go. You've got the ball 20 to 25 yards away from Trace Mack's range. You just need a couple of first downs, and you win the game by default by going up 3 scores with 5 minutes to go or so. No, just run the ball, bleed clock. There's no thought to actually advancing the football to move the sticks to bleed more clock. That's how you really bleed the clock, is by moving the chains. No, Florida doesn't do that. So very frustrating to watch that. But again, he did have this team prepared. That's why it's not a failing grade. They were prepared. They were ready to go. They fought for him. They understood the urgency of this game. Finally, it only took them 3 losses in a row, but better late than never, I guess. I'll give them a C. It's a passing grade, but there's a lot of stuff that's just objectively not good and is not worthy of celebrating or being happy about. I guess, honestly, the biggest praise for this game I'll give Coach Napier and his staff was what I talked about doing in the offseason, about getting Dallas Wilson, about getting Vernell Brown, about getting Jake Slaughter to come back. That was the best bit of coaching I saw in this game. And that was your off-field CEO duties, also with help from Florida Victorious and the Gators NIL people. That's the best bit of coaching praise I have to give for this game. So that's the coaching. Overall, I'll give an 82. So B-. You beat a top 10 team at the time. I think there's a very good reason why they're not ranked anymore. I think that is a correction of having them previously overranked. I don't think it's an overreaction to drop them from number 9 to out of the top 25. I think the mistake was having them ranked number 9 because of that Hook'em logo, which now goes down, and because of the players they have on their roster. So 82, it's a B-, close to a B. It's good. It's a good performance. There are 18 points left there. There's still a lot of reasons why it was not 100. It was far from perfect. You got the win, but it just wasn't the prettiest. And I think that's just part of Billy Napier's DNA. We're never going to get that game where we go, you know what? That was perfect. Everything about that was great. I could not have asked for anything better myself. The way that Steve Spurrier or Urban Meyer would give us. We're just not going to get that.
You said it. It's just not in his DNA. It's just not. He's never going to be a coach that buries a team, that gets up ahead and buries them. It's just not in his DNA.
We don't bury them. That's the thing. We don't bury them. We leave them. We think we bury them. Billy thinks he buries them, but all he does is toss a couple mounds of dirt on them and just walks away.
As soon as he goes up 2 scores, up 2 scores on anybody, his entire everything changes. His play calling, his decision making, everything.
It's never more than 3 scores against a real team. Like, not going to count Long Island. Against a real team, the most I've ever seen him be aggressive is up 2 scores. Like Central Florida in 24, Tennessee in 23, he got up by 3 scores in that game. 26-7 against Tennessee, against Central Florida last year. I guess Kentucky kind of, but there were also non-offensive touchdowns in that game. You had the Cormani pick 6. It's at most 3 scores. He's not ever aggressive when he's up 3 scores. And I hate that. That's not Florida. We grew up with Spurrier and Urban and just running up the score on teams. And that's just not what we're getting with Billy.
We're at the end of the show here, but I really would have loved to have seen what would have happened if Hayden Hansen hadn't fumbled. Because Gators were up 10-0. They were up 10-0, and they really had it going, man. I mean, Billy was calling some things up, and they were driving it, and, Lagway hits Hansen up the middle. He's going in for about 5-10 more yards. It's going to be Gator ball at around the Texas A&M 30. So
Texas, not A&M. It's Texas.
Man, I keep saying that, huh?
You're going to piss off a lot of Horn fans who are just like, hate this.
Well, it's there at the Texas 30-ish. You're already in field goal range minimum. So you're looking at minimum 13, maybe even 17-0. I really would have liked to have seen what happened there. So that's 2 fumbles that our receivers had because, oh, my God.
Dallas Wilson fumbled on his first catch. You also didn't mention that. That could have been, dude, that could have set in motion such a nightmare of a game for a true freshman. It didn't. He overcame a champion.
You know what? Now that I just talked myself into that should have been probably the play of the game. Him recovering his own fumble. Think about what happens to the complexion of that ball game if Texas gets the ball right there in the first drive.
30, yeah.
Woo! Plus, also maybe Dallas's confidence gets shaken up for the rest of the ball game.
That's what I said.
That could have been the play of the game right there. But hey,
that can get honorable mention because that was definitely huge in hindsight. But I got to give George Gums his props for going and making the kill shot sack at the very end there. And also Cam James, the penultimate sack, the setup for George Gums finishing it off with a sack. But
the Gators got to win.
We did.
Gators got to win, baby.
It feels good. Chomp, chomp. We can't ever do it in sync because there's an internet delay. But yeah, horns down or chomp, chomp, whichever you're in the mood for.
Chop, chop.
It finally actually feels great to be a Florida Gator football fan. It's always great to be a Florida Gator, but it's great to be a fan of this Florida Gator football team for the first time all year.
That's a lot more enjoyable to see wins, that's for sure, man.
And we hope to keep covering more wins for you as the season goes along. So to be sure to catch that content when it drops, be sure to like, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts. Tell your friends, do all those great things to help us bring you more great Gator content, which we hope will be more Gator wins. As we said, we have our reasons to doubt that. Billy Napier has never won more than 2 SEC games in a row in his life, but we're hoping that he does for the first time ever now this year with his back against the wall. Until next time, y'all, be sure to do the Gator chomp, wear that Gator gear loud and proud because we never know how many more wins will come our way. Until next time, in all kinds of weather, go Gators. We will be back covering the Texas A&M game later on this week.